morning children, welcome to Beula Online Education, and in this video we'll discuss about the another important microorganism that is a protozoan and various infective particles like prions and virons and the role of microorganism in the production of a vaccine and agriculture. Actually it's a continuation of the previous video, that is a microorganism included in SCRT syllabus for class 8. And now what is the protozoan? The protozoan are the unicellular and eukaryotic single cell eukaryotic organism, and they are included in the 5 kingdom classification under the kingdom Protista, and the study of protozoan is usually called as an protology. And what is the habitat of this protozoa? They are usually found in the ponds or in the ocean or in the moist soil, that is the wet soil, or in the cells and tissues of plants and animals. The protozoan living in the cells of and the tissues of plants and animals, they cause a harmful effect, and that is they cause disease. And the size of the protozoa ranges from 2 to 200 microns, that is the size of the protozoan. And the protozoans are having a specialized organ list, as how the organ list present in the higher animals, and the same way there are certain specialized organs are present in the protozoan to carry out a special function. An example I can tell you children, the plasma membrane is an example. The plasma membrane enclosing the cytoplasm, it encloses or it covers the cytoplasm, and the plasma membrane which covers or encloses the cytoplasm project as a locomotive structure, maybe as a pseudopodia or a cilia or a flagella, and it performs various functions like movement or feeding and other function. And now the protozoans are classified into various types based on the organ of locomotion. Based on the locomotory organs used by a protozoa, it's a various type, and the first one is called ciliates. So what is a ciliates here? That is, the locomotory organ will be a cilia. The cilia are present found surrounding the body. That is called ciliates. Example, Paramecium. And the locomotory organ is a flagella, and the organism which make use of flagella as a locomotory organ is usually called as a flagellates. Example, Euglena. And the third important type is the pseudopodia, that is pseudopodia is a locomotory organ for certain amoeba. And the last one is the sporozoans here, that is a parasite, example Plasmodium. And now we'll discuss what is a Paramecium and what is an Euglena and an amoeba and a Plasmodium. So we are not going to enter very deeply into the structure of the Paramecium or a Euglena or a Plasmodium, but an outline about a Paramecium we'll discuss now. So what is a Paramecium? This Paramecium is actually a species of a protozoan here, and it's an animal like because it moves in search of its own food. And this Paramecium possesses the character of both plant and animal. That is, sometimes they make food and sometimes they don't do so. So the Paramecium is an intermediary between the plant and the animal kingdom. And same Euglena also behave like both plant and animal character, and they are found in the fresh water and also in the brackish water. So what is a brackish water? That is, more salinity nature of the water is usually called as a brackish water, but the salinity will not be much as a sea water. That is the nature of the Euglena. And a third important example is given here as a common protozoan, Plasmodium. That is, the Plasmodium infect RBC, red blood corpuscles, in the mammals, including the human being, and malaria is caused by a Plasmodium. The parasite can be spread to the human through the bite of an infected mosquito. These are the common protozoans, maybe namely a Paramecium and a Euglena and a Plasmodium is given here. And I will discuss about the structure of an amoeba. So this amoeba is a unicellular, it's a single cell, it's a microscopic organism which can be seen, which can be observed, or which can be studied under a microscope. And this amoeba is usually present only in the ponds, and amoeba does not have any shape and size of its own, and that is what it is given. Amoeba is irregular in shape as other organism. It has an outer covering called as a cell membrane and a cytoplasm, and a nucleus is present. So the outermost covering is called as a cell membrane, and the second layer is called as a cytoplasm, and the nucleus is present in the center. And it's a type of a protozoa that moves. The locomotory organ is called pseudopodia. Pseudopodia. The locomotory organ of amoeba is called as a pseudopodia in the Latin word which means a false feet. And what is a pseudopodia? Actually, it's the extended part of the cell membrane. So what is a cell membrane? The outermost covering and the extended part or outgrowth of the cell membrane will be a pseudopodia, which is a locomotory organ present in amoeba. And amoeba, the main important function of the pseudopodia, which is the extended part of the cell membrane, is to catch the prey and some maybe an algae. And it consists of two important vacuoles are usually present here, that is the food vacuole and contractive vacuole. So what is the main important function of the contractive vacuole and what is contractive vacuole? I will come back to the diagram once again. Here you can see two type of vacuole is present. It's the food vacuole and the second one is called as a contractive vacuole. So what is the importance of the food vacuole and what is the importance of the contractive vacuole? The contractive vacuole that is present in amoeba is to regulate the water content of the cell. It's also a means of excreting its waste from the cell by the process called as a diffusion. And without contractive vacuole, amoeba cells may get burst. That is the important features of the contractive vacuole present in amoeba. And the second important type of vacuole is called as a food vacuole. And the main important function of the food vacuole is digestive in function. That is, it is a storage unit of food for amoeba and it is formed when amoeba has engulfed its prey completely. A vacuole called food vacuole is usually formed here. This is the structure of an amoeba. And now, what is a prion and what is a viron? Actually, what is the meaning of the simple term for the prions and the virons here? And the virons refers to, that is here, it's derived, the prions is derived from the proteinaceous infective particle is usually called as a prion. In other words, we can say infected protein is usually called as a prion. The prion does not have neither DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, or an RNA or ribonucleic acid to transmit the infection. The infected particle is not neither a DNA nor an RNA, but it is a protein. That is the infected protein. Now, what happened to the protein? That is, it is mutate. What is the mutation? A sudden changes. It has undergone a change. That is either by means of addition or a duplication or an inversion or a transition or a transversion. That in the advanced level, we need just to go, we'll be entering into the mutation topic very deeply. So a prion is a mutate form of usually harmless protein, and this prion causes more number of diseases by affecting the brain as well as the neural tissue. The prions are the site or the place where it causes the diseases in the central nervous system or maybe in the brain or in the neural tissue. And two examples are given there. The common disease is called as a Jacob disease. That is called cruciform Jacob disease. And what is a Jacob disease actually? That is, it's a type of a disease that destroys the brain cell and cause tiny holes in the brain. And people with this Jacob disease experiences difficulty in controlling the body movement. That is the importance of character of the Jacob disease. And in other words, we can say it is caused by abnormal infective protein in the brain cells called as prions. That is the first type of disease caused because of prions. And second example is called as Kuru, K-U-R-U. And what is a Kuru? It's a very rare disease and it is caused by an infectious protein commonly called as prion, and it is associated with cannibalism. So Kuru is associated with cannibalism. So Kuru is a very rare disease. It is caused by an infection protein called as prion, and it is usually found in the contaminated human brain tissue. So Kuru is found among a group of people from Guyana, that is, who practiced cannibalism. C-A-N-N-I-B-A-L-I-S. What is the cannibalism? The eating the flesh of an animal by another animal by its own kind is usually called as cannibalism. So the group of people from Guyana, they have practiced cannibalism in which they ate the brain of the dead people as a part of the funeral trail. So these are all the importance of this prion. And what is a viron? When you compare a prion and a viron, and this prion does not have either DNA as an RNA or genetic material to transmit the disease. And where is a viron here? The entire viral particle is usually called as an viron, and it consists of an outer protein shell called as a capsid, and the inner layer core is called as a nucleic acid. It is only in the nucleic acid you can see RNA or DNA will be present here, and this RNA will be or DNA will be acting as an agent of transmission of the genetical material or the transmission of the diseases. And if it is present outside the cell, it is usually called as an extracellular layer. That is, extra is outside, and it is usually called as an viron. And the viron have the capacity to infect the living tissue. And these virons confirm both infectivity and also specificity. That is the importance of this viron. And now, what are the uses of the microorganism? So, microorganisms have both advantages and disadvantages, and now we'll make an attempt to know about the useful of the microorganism. That is the role of microorganism in various fields, and the first one in the field of medicine. And we are obtaining an antibiotics, and vaccines are obtained. And what is the meaning of an antibiotic here? That is, the antibiotic is a substance that inhibits the growth of or destroy the microorganism. Or in other words, we can say it's a medicine that treats infectious disease, is usually called as an antibiotics. So the antibiotic has simple meaning. The anti means against here. The substance produced by a very important living organism. The antibiotics are produced only from the living organism, from the plants, which is toxic for the other organism. That is called as an antibiotics. So microorganisms plays a very important role in the production of the antibiotics. Alexander Fleming was the first person to discover the antibiotic named penicillin in the year of 1928 or the year of 1926, we can say. And it was an accidental discovery. What was the accidental discovery? When Sir Alexander Fleming, when he was working on a staphylococcus bacteria, Alexander Fleming observed a green mold growing in one of his unwashed culture plate, around which staphylococcus could not grow when he observed the next day. And he found it was due to a chemical produced by the mold, and he named it as the penicillin, which was the first antibiotic discovered by Sir Alexander Fleming in the year of 1926 or 28, and the penicillin is popularly referred to as Queen of Drugs. And the penicillin discovered is produced from two important species. One is called Penicillium chrysogenum. For your reference, I will show you in a diagram, children. The penicillin is obtained from a species called as a Penicillium chrysogenum or from the Penicillium notatum. And it is used to cure more number of diseases like a tetanus or a diphtheria or maybe a plague. So what is a tetanus here? It's a type of a disease, a bacterial infection through, that is, entry of bacteria through the skin from a contaminated object is usually called as a tetanus. And what is a diphtheria? That is, it's a bacterial infection affecting nose or a throat and spread from droplets by means of sneezing and coughing. There's a common symptom of the diphtheria. And we have different types of antibiotics are here. Maybe a tetracycline or a chlorotetracycline or a streptomycin is given. And one example is given here, an antibiotic by name streptomycin. It is obtained from a bacteria called as a streptomyces bacteria to cure various number of bacterial infections, example plague. And what is the plague actually? It's a type of a disease that spread from rat to human being. So the microorganisms play a very important role in various fields, and the first field we have discussed, the role in the medicine for the production of the antibiotics. And the next one is about a vaccine, and that is Edward Jenner was the first person to discover vaccine for the smallpox. This is a symptom of the smallpox you have studied in the lower classes maybe, and there is eruption on the skin, leaving a permanent pits or scars in our body. That will be the common symptom of the smallpox. So vaccines are prepared, very important, from the death or the weakened microbes So what is the definition for the vaccine? That is a substance that help to protect a body against a certain disease is usually called as a vaccine. Or in general we can say vaccine is a type of a medicine that trains the body immune system. A very good defense system is functioning in our body to protect our body from the attack of any disease causing pathogens. Naturally and very easily no other agents can enter into our body and affect our body very easily, because we have a system, defense mechanism system functioning in our body called as an immune system. So what is a vaccine? It's a type of a medicine that trains the body immune system so that it can fight a disease it has not come into contact with before. Our vaccines are designed to prevent a disease rather than to treat a disease once you have caught, that is the vaccine. And when the vaccine is injected into the body of a patient, what the vaccine does, it produces an antibody. The vaccines are producing antibodies. What is an antibody? Antibodies are the substance that inhibit the growth or destroy the microorganism, or the medicine that treats the infection is usually called as an antibodies. So antibodies are produced. When the vaccine is injected into the patient, the antibodies are produced and the antibodies remain inside the body and protect from the further invention of any germs. Disease causing agents naturally cannot enter into our body, and therefore vaccination is otherwise called as an immunization. And examples are given here. MMR is given as an example and BCG is given as another example. And what is MMR? That is MMR vaccine is given for preventing measles, mumps and rubella. That is commonly called as an MMR vaccine, and that is MMR vaccine. The first dosage is given, that is during the period of 9 to 15 months of age, and the second dosage is given from 15 months to 6 years. And BCG, what is a BCG vaccine? It is a vaccine given for preventing tuberculosis. Tuberculosis caused by a bacteria called as a Microorganism tuberculosis, and it is one of the opportunity diseases for the sexually transmitted diseases, namely AIDS, that is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, that is HIV human immunodeficiency virus. And certain countries or the certain areas, that is in many countries with a high prevalences of TB, to prevent childhood, this BCG vaccine is usually given. This is another major important role of microorganism. And the next topic is about agriculture. So microorganisms are called as decomposers. So what is a decomposer? Any organism having the capacity, or maybe a soil bacterium or a fungus that decompose or the organic material is usually called as a decomposer. And what the decomposers do, that is they break down physically and chemically the dead organic matter. So during the process of this decomposition, nitrates and other inorganic nutrients are released into the soil, by which the fertility of the soil is usually increased. As a result, the yield or the output will be more. This compost is usually called as a natural fertilizer due to the action of the microorganism, that is the fallen death or a plant or an animal is usually decomposed. From the decomposed, we are getting a nitrate, other inorganic nutrients, and they release in the soil and thus make the soil increase the fertility of the soil. This compost is usually called as a natural fertilizer. This is another important role. And next, and very major important role will be a nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen is present in the air and different constituents of gases we have, and one of the important is the nitrogen here. And nitrogen is fixed into the plant. Which plants here? Leguminous plants. Example, bees and certain peas or rice are example for the leguminous plant. So what is the name of a bacteria involved in the nitrogen fixation? Rhizobium bacteria. Where does the rhizobium bacteria live? It lives in the root and forms what? Nodules. And the roots are called as a nodulated roots. So the rhizobium bacteria living in the roots of certain leguminous plants. I told you earlier, an example for a leguminous plant may be a bean or a pea or a rice is an example. So rhizobium bacteria living in the root of the certain leguminous plants just form a nodules in the root, and that is called root nodule, and they enrich the soil by fixing the atmospheric nitrogen. The atmospheric nitrogen is absorbed by the rhizobium bacteria living in the root nodules of a certain leguminous plant, and they convert it into either an ammonia or a nitrates, and they can be used by the plant. And what is the important basic role of the rhizobium bacteria? That is, they form a nodules in the root of the leguminous plant, and they are living as they exhibit a symbiotic association. Here, what is a symbiotic association? The mutual association exhibiting between the two organisms is usually called as a symbiotic association. That is, these bacteria living in the root nodules of certain leguminous plants. Now the bacteria is also benefited. Which bacteria? Rhizobium bacteria, and the plants also is getting benefited. What are the group of plants? Leguminous plant. What is an example for the leguminous plant? That is peas and rice is an example for the leguminous plant. So both are getting benefited. This association is usually called as a mutual association. That is called as a symbiotic association. So what is the benefit to the bacterium and what is benefit to the plant is very important. Rhizobium obtain food from the leguminous plant and in turn fixes atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates. And another one more example also is given here. Nostoc is also given as an example. They also can fix nitrogen biologically. This is the main important role of microorganism in, that is, nitrogen fixation. And another important role will be biocontrol agents. Microorganisms are used to protect the crop from the attack of the pest. So we can say transgenic plants or transgenic animals. What is a transgenic plant or a transgenic animal? With advancement in science and technology, we can change the genetical character. That is, a natural genetic character that exists within a plant can be altered and a new character can be produced. That is, transgenic plants. Genetically modified plants are usually called as a transgenic plant. So genetically modified plants are usually called as a transgenic plants. Example is given here. Bacillus thuringiensis is given as an example. What is a Bacillus thuringiensis here? This Bacillus thuringiensis is the name of a bacteria. That is, by that you will be able to produce certain crops as example Bt cotton. What is Bt cotton? Bacillus thuringiensis cotton. That is cotton produced by genetically altering the cotton genome to express the microbial protection from a bacteria. Bacillus thuringiensis usually called as that is Bt cotton, and that is helpful to control the insect. Of course, it has both advantages and disadvantages are there, but in the future class we will be discussing about the advantages and disadvantages and how Bacillus thuringiensis plants is being inserted in the Bt cotton. That is Bacillus thuringiensis cotton. And the second one is called as a trichoderma. It's a type of a fungus that help the protect roots or protected and control the plant pathogen. What is a pathogen? Disease causing agents are usually called as a pathogen. And next third is called baculoviruses here. So what is the baculoviruses here? Viruses that affect the insects and other arthropods is usually called as a baculoviruses here. That is, it's a type of viruses having DNA that infect only invertebrate animals are usually called as an baculoviruses. So these are the main important role played by the microorganism in the various field. Children, I hope that you have understood, and see you back with the role of microbes in other various fields in the next video. Thank you so much.